So welcome to our Network Plus study session today. I am here with Rob from IT Master Key. Rob, introduce yourself for everybody, please.
Hey gang, this is Rob from IT Master Key, and just like Antoinette, I am an educator, I'm an instructor. I've been teaching for a little bit over 5 years. I've been in IT for about 13, 14 years. Got 12 certifications. Got my master's in IT as well.
Welcome back for those who have been looking at our study sessions for A+, and of course, all of our other videos to get you exam ready. We are making sure that you're connected with us in the right places. So of course, here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, check out Rob's YouTube, as well as our Instagrams, LinkedIn, or Facebook, whatever is a preference for you to go ahead and connect with us. So with that, Rob, tell us about the test that we are looking at today.
All right, gang, so the Network Plus exam is a CompTIA exam that's centered towards people that are interested in becoming network analysts, network engineers, just something that pertains to networking. So a Network Plus is a part of the CompTIA trifecta, which is A+, Net Plus, and Security Plus. Most students actually get their A+ before they dive into Network Plus. Can you go straight for Network Plus? Of course you can, but getting A+ first improves the possibility of you passing by a lot. So on the actual exam, you got to get a 720 out of 900 to pass the exam. If you get 720, you're good to go, you pass. On the actual exam, you have multiple choice questions as well as performance-based questions. The performance-based questions are pretty much CompTIA's way of doing hands-on to show that you can actually fix some stuff and not just regurgitate information that you remember. You're gonna get a maximum of 90 questions. Doesn't mean you're gonna get 90 questions, but that's the maximum amount that you'll get. And for those 90 questions, you'll get 90 minutes to complete the test. And right now with testing from home or testing remotely, it should make things a lot simpler. You can take it right from the comfort of your home, and you know if you passed or not right after. It's going to tell you if you passed or not.
What is actually on the exam itself? And that's where we get the breakdown. So we've got a couple of focus areas, the 5 here, that make up the actual exam itself. So networking concepts is really a fundamental understanding of what a network is, what it's made of, what the different components there. Then you have the infrastructure, so the specific pieces of hardware that make it happen, like the critical pieces, the operations of the network, the security, of course, we want to make sure this thing is secure, and how to troubleshoot when something is going wrong. What tools you're going to use to troubleshoot, whether they're physical tools or actually tools that are built into the system like diagnostics. So making sure that you're comfortable across these different areas is going to give you the confidence in the testing room. It's going to make sure that you're prepared. And right now, we're going to jump into some practice questions for what you'll see on the exam.
So first one, a user calls the help desk and states that he was working on a spreadsheet and was unable to print it. However, his colleagues are able to print their documents to the same shared printer. Which of the following should be the first question the help desk asks? What do we think? Out of those options, what's the first thing that the help desk should ask? And another thing while we're here, gang, a lot of the exam is going to be focused on this stuff right here. So troubleshooting, stuff is broke, how do you fix it, so on and so forth. All right, so is the user able to access any network resources? All right, so that's the first thing that you would ask. That's the first thing you would ask. When you're on the actual exam, make sure you pay attention to that stuff. What's the first thing? What's the last thing? What's the best thing? What's the most expensive? What's the least expensive? So if you feel comfortable with troubleshooting, you should be comfortable inside the actual exam room.
All right, so next question. Jazzy is a network administrator performing a crucial upgrade to the network. What should she implement in case the upgrade fails? Think about it. So what happens when plans don't go right when you're going forward? Well, that's when we bring them on back. So having a rollback plan, meaning we can reverse the progress that we made in case something does break or doesn't go smoothly, making sure that you have a rollback in place is the way to do that. So when Jazzy does a major upgrade, if something goes wrong, she can just bring all that back to where it's supposed to be. And then she can go back, tweak the upgrade, make sure that it's working, test it again, and then try and implement it in production or do a live rollout once all of the bugs are fixed. All right, next question.
The technician needs to set aside addresses in a DHCP pool so that certain servers always receive the same address. Which of the following should be configured? What do we think? So DHCP, remember DHCP is simply a way to assign IP addresses automatically, right? So you automatically get IP addresses when they're assigned automatically. So once the addresses are assigned automatically, you can have a way to where the same IP addresses go to the same devices all the time. So what would be the easiest way to configure that? And the answer is reservations. All right, real simple. So you reserve those IP addresses for those particular devices. So this may be for a printer or a file server, just to make sure that that IP address is always assigned to that device. So it should always be on, it should always be working. They got the same IP address, and that IP address is assigned to that device. All right, Antoinette, your turn.
All right, so your company just installed a packet sniffer on the network, and the sniffer discovers that a client is sending TCP SYN packets to server B. All right, so you've got a packet sniffer on your network, and it discovers that a client is sending TCP SYN packets to server B. What packet will server B return? What's the corresponding response out of that? This is all about the functionality and the operations of a network. So if you are going to send a SYN packet, what are you going to get back? You're going to get a SYN ACK, right? A synchronization request and an acknowledgement is what ACK stands for. So synchronization and acknowledgement. It's all about this handshake process where, like, as a server or as a client, we put our hand out and then the server is actually going to shake our hand and acknowledge us. I only have two hands, so that was a little weird, right? But I send out a synchronization request. They acknowledge it with a SYN ACK, and then I'll get the actual acknowledgement. So very simple process. We call it the handshake. And when a client reaches out to a server and says, hey, I'm here, they just want some acknowledgement that, yes, I see you, and we can definitely start the conversation.
Mikey, a network technician, is setting up a DHCP server on a LAN segment. Which of the following options should Joe configure in the DHCP scope in order to allow hosts on that LAN segment using dynamic IP addresses to be able to access the internet and internal company servers? Select 3. So this question, like a lot of questions, is saying a lot, but not really saying much, right? So pretty much this whole question in a nutshell is asking, what do you need? What 3 things do you need to get on the internet? To be able to get on the stuff on your network and to be able to get outside of your network? What 3 things do you need to be able to do that? Another thing, on the actual exam, most of the questions are presented this way. So most of the questions are going to be scenario, story-based. So it's not going to be a lot of what is this, what is that, but more about the application or in a story, how does that actually work? So what is the answer? What 3 things was going to allow us to get on the internet and get on servers inside of our network? And the answer is a default gateway, a subnet mask, and a DNS server. So those are the 3 things you need to get on the internet and have access to the stuff inside of your network. All right, next up.
Now, I want to take a minute while you think about this and really talk about the last question. Did you notice that it was choose all that apply or choose three? That is definitely something that you will see in the testing room. So pay attention to those little things because it might say choose two or choose all that apply. And again, you heard Rob say those most, least, expensive, what's the least expensive. So pay attention to those keywords and don't let those slip you up. You're a project manager with a huge construction company. You're going to be running network cables through the ceiling of several different areas of the construction site. So what kind of cabling should you use in these areas? You're at a construction site and you are running cable through the ceiling. What kind of cabling should you be using if you're running it through the ceiling? Well, hopefully you said plenum. Plenum is correct because it has a special coating on the outside of it to make sure that in case anything does happen to it, so it gets too hot, it catches on fire, anything crazy, that it's not going to just fumes. It's a special coating on your actual cabling to make sure that it doesn't let any noxious fumes out in case it gets too hot or actually catches fire. Now I say both because something can warm up and start releasing noxious fumes from that blue or gray or black Cat5 that you see running through the walls or under desks. Those are not necessarily plenum covered cables. Usually plenum has pinks and purples, but it will say right there on the actual wire that it is plenum coated jacket for the Cat5 or whatever type of cabling it's on.
So Jake is a senior network engineer that works for Sally Inc. He is explaining how private IP addresses are turned into public. So like most CompTIA exams, there's going to be a lot of acronyms, and this exam is no different. So you got RAC, PAC, NAC, and MAC. A lot of those things sound similar. They sound like they could be maybe the same thing, but there is a difference. So what is primarily responsible for turning private to public IP addresses can be run across the internet while private IP addresses cannot. So what do we think that answers? So hopefully you chose C, which is network address translation, and that is responsible for the router.
How many hosts per subnet? We're talking about how many devices can you put on to a subnetwork when on the network 172.22.0.0 and your subnet mask is 255.255.255.240. Sometimes the right answer is super obvious and sometimes it takes a little bit of thought. So think about it. How many hosts per subnet? Anytime I've gone into a testing center, they've always handed me that laminated piece of paper and a dry erase marker so that I can take notes during the test. And that's one of those things during Net Plus, as well as my Cisco exams, that I felt really good that I had that space so that I could knock out writing out my notes on subnetting and get the right answers to this. So for those of you who answered A, I totally understand where you're coming from. Your brain goes right to 16 for a .240 subnet mask. But you need to remember the question itself. How many hosts per subnet? And that answer is actually going to be B because it is hosts -2. The -2 accounts for the actual network ID and the broadcast ID, which means if we can hold 16 hosts or 16 addresses, 2 of those are already going to be used. Same thing if we use 32 addresses, we're only going to get 30 hosts per network because you have to account for that -2.
All right, so Katie enters her username and password once. She has access to several applications on the network without having to re-enter her credentials. What is this an example of? So you enter your username and password one time, you got access to several different platforms, several different programs, several different applications. What does that sound like? So hopefully you guys said single sign-on, right? Is where you sign on one time, singly, once, and then you have access to a plethora, a bunch of, or several different applications or programs. Next up.
So that comes the end of our Net Plus study session as far as our practice questions today, and wanted to touch base on if you have any questions. So if you're watching right now and you have a question that you'd like us to answer live, feel free to put it in the YouTube chat and we will touch base on it. So while that happens, Rob, I have a question for you. Tell me a little bit about some of the main focus areas for your class for Net Plus. What do you focus on the most?
So the Network Plus course is self-paced and it pretty much covers all the objectives on the actual exam. So if you don't know, CompTIA exams are broken down in domains, and each domain has a set of objectives that they go over. So we talked about the domains earlier on in this video, and pretty much the course is structured in the same way, just to make sure that you don't miss anything. We got on-demand lectures, practice exams, and simulations as well, just to make sure that you're ready for the actual exam.